So Nam Aloha, everyone. So this is the new moon. So the new moon's on the 21st, and then hours later, the sun has moved around the mandala, like all of those numbers, those 64 numbers. Then it's gone back to the very beginning. So the 41 is down here off the root chakra, and this is the beginning, the star codon of all our human experiences. Everything starts with the 41. So that's the official new year, which is only a couple hours after this new moon. And then it's the Chinese New Year too. So you can feel there's a lot of new energy, right, coming. So there's the 60. The moon is in the 60. The sun is in the 60. The Pluto's in the 60 right there. So what's the shadow pattern here? So you can see that the 60, I've got the green circle there. So that's the root chakra. Okay, so that's pressure. That's pressure, root chakra pressure. And the 60, and there's if the 3 was activated, was planetary, activated by a planet, that would make a channel, and those two would be colored in. This is the channel of mutation. Right? The channel of mutation. So this is about starting the mutative process right here with the 60. So it's the shadow of limitation. Okay? So this is mutative energy. Pressure with mutative energy to change, to go through a metamorphosis yourself. You probably even look at last year. Last year, the person you were last year. You're probably radically different now. Like maybe your external's not reflecting that yet. This is the shadow of limitation. It's I can't see the change, but you know inside that you've changed. Right? I've had times like that where I've woken up in the morning and it's like I feel so shifted and I feel so different even though everything around me is the same, right? Because the mind wants proof, right? Wants proof that things are changing. This is part of the shadow of limitation. So it's about trusting. The 60 is about trusting that mutative energy, it's a pulse, right? It's a pulse. This mutative energy works at a pulse. It's like off, 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 on, off. There's no rhythm or rhyme to it. It's nature's rhythm, right? So it doesn't really have it has a cosmic order, but it doesn't have an order according to the mind. So there's no control over when this mutation happens. So what can happen with the shadow of limitation in this channel, especially if you've got it, right? That you have the channel of mutation. You're going to just bring mutation wherever you go. You could be in your workplace, you could be with your friends, your family, and then suddenly everything, that mutative energy just emanates from you. And that in turn causes mutation and change around you with the people around you. But you have no control over it, right? So what can come up is melancholy, right? Which is kind of a depression, like feeling depressed, like nothing's moving, right? I'm limited by this, and why isn't life changing? Right? And all that means, that melancholy, it's very creative. It just means there's something gestating, right? There's something gestating inside you. It's really about, if I were to say one word that for me, my biggest lesson this 2022 is patience, right? It's patience and trust in these rhythms that life knows best. Life knows what it's doing, right? We don't need to interfere as humans. So the gift, because every shadow has a gift, is acceptance. And this is the gate of acceptance, 60. And then the city is justice, right there. So let's go into what this shadow, worm tongue, the ego, will tell you with the 60, right? And this is how we can learn, we can discern. It's like, oh, I'm having thoughts like this is the conditioning field, right? People are going to have thoughts like this. And this just means you're in the shadows releasing from the DNA of humanity, right? And we're in this programming field, the matrix, you could call it Maya. Feeling limited, like I'm limited. Maybe you don't even know you're limited. By conditioned, means that's been imposed on you. Familiar dualistic thinking, which is this or that. because we live in a plane of duality. That's how the mind experiences reality, is this or that. That's the walnut, right? The walnut halves, this or that. Where you find one, you're going to find its opposite. So feeling like you're stuck, right? You're stuck in the horizontal, this or that, this or that, this or that. The way out is the vertical. You got to go up, right? And the limitation, the shadow of limitation keeps you in this, keeps you back and forth with the mind. That's what the mind does. Feeling limited by these rules and regulations. Maybe you've got rules on yourself that you've inherited from your ancestors. Well, I don't do that. Well, I don't do. Well, I'm a Christian, or I'm a yogi. I don't do those things. You got to look at this, because they're keeping you trapped in the horizontal, right? Or feeling materially limited. That's a big theme on the planet, feeling materially limited, right? Like you just don't have enough. And as soon as you say that, like I don't have enough money, I don't have enough whatever resources, I don't have a car, whatever, it's not enough. What you're really saying is, I'm not enough. I'm not enough, which is my spirit, my soul isn't enough. And you're more than enough. That's the source, right? This is all about the mind, breaking out of the limitations of the mind. You won't allow anyone to challenge your way of doing things, right? Won't receive any feedback. And remember, the divine can work through anybody. You've got to look at it like that. Because we get caught up in the person, right? The ego gets caught up in that. Well, I can't look powerless, right? I can't look like I have it all. I have to look like I'm a success. I've got to look like I have it all together, right? So you're not accepting feedback, but that feedback is probably coming from the divine, right? To help you and support you. Cling to systems, right? So clinging to this. That Titanic that's going down, clinging to that system instead of clinging to the divine, Feeling depressed when nothing seems to be moving. That's the shadow of limitation. So these shadows have fears. So that's right away, it's like I'm not being myself. I'm having these thoughts. And the limitation is that I stay there. Right? And to transcend limitation and to transcend shadow is to feel at first, because it's going to come with emotions of feeling that limitation. Maybe you feel afraid, or you feel angry, like I want to rail against these systems, or I feel grief, right? I feel grief. I feel really sad about this. Maybe I'm seeing limitation all around me, because when you're in the shadow, that's all you see. That's all you see is shadow. You don't see the truth, right? It's like you got these glasses on, these limitation shadow glasses, and you look around, that's all you see. Right away, you've got to get into that place of empowerment, right? Which is to change my frequency, which is me get out of the horizontal, I'm going into the vertical, and I'm going up, right? I'm going up to the divine, but I got to feel that stuff first that comes up, right? And then you start to see reality. This is transcending. This is what the shadow of limitation is showing us, right? Is acceptance. I'm accepting the gift of acceptance. I'm accepting that I'm in this shadow state right now. I accept it. I'm not going to run from it. I'm not going to avoid it and distract myself from it, or go to false promises that somebody's dangling a carrot. Here's how you get out of these feelings of feeling limited, right? So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go inside. I'm going to stay inside, right? So the fear is the limitations and restrictions. We can see this coming, right, in 2023. And the shadow can feel victimized by the structures and systems built by the status quo. This is like the iTunes, terms and conditions like that. This is the rat-tat-tat stuff that people can feel limited by the systems and the government overreach, and you need a license for this and you need a license for that, right? You need to do this so that you can be free, instead of the opposite. It's like we're free already. We don't need somebody to tell us that we're free, right? So it can feel victimized by that. So you can see it's like staying stuck. And what it is, too, is staying fixated in this path of this awareness, is staying in the physical and then the mental, not going down to the vibrational. Will keep you in shadow. And then the belief system, because everyone has a belief system. And remember, creativity is about the vertical. It's not about the horizontal. Vertical is something completely new. It's the present moment, right? It's the present moment. That's where creativity is. So the belief is that you're immortal. You're mortal being trapped in matter, and that's all you are, right? And that life will not right itself. So no trust in life at all. You know, it's like a plant, right? If you go and plant put some tomato seeds or whatever down in the ground, and then you're going out and you don't see anything happening. Does that mean nothing's happening? You don't dig it up, right? You trust that the seed is germinating. That's what this shadow of limitation and gift of acceptance is teaching us. And the thing is, for creativity to happen, we need that container, that tight container. If we don't have a container, it will, like, think of a river and a bank. The banks are like the container, right, for the river. So we too need some kind of containment, right? That's why immersions and retreats are good, or your sadhana practice. You're creating a container. It's like, I'm going to go up in the morning. I'm going to meditate from 5 to 6 a.m. or whatever, and that's my container. And once you make that commitment that this is my container of time, then transformation can happen. But if you're like willy-nilly, like, I'll just follow my bliss and follow these new age teachings and pray to some ascended master and I'm going to change. No, this is why we have to embrace this shadow of limitation and make it work for us. So it's creating a structure, and then the change and the creativity can come in through that structure. Does that make sense? Like, our body is even a container, right, for our soul to come in and change and mutate. So it's just accepting, right? Accepting and working with these containers. So the gift of acceptance, and then the city of justice. So this is about when you know you're in the gift and you've transcended it, right? You stay connected to your ideals and vision without losing sight of the destructive part of the creative process. God is an acronym, right? So it stands for generating, organizing, and destroying, or delivering. Those are the three aspects, right? So this is about, that sometimes that container is not going to serve you any longer. And the container may have been your relationship, or maybe the container was the job. Here's my container. I go to work at this job, and it was all about the containment was like, I'm here 8 hours a day, right? 5 days a week with these certain people that we've come together for karmic reasons, right? This is why we work, really. That's what I see, is to pay off these karmic debts to one another, because we wouldn't freely go out and choose karmic relationships. But in the workplace, you have really no choice of who you work with, in a sense, right? So God is like bringing you all together. So maybe you've done your karma, especially now, right? Your karmic contract's paid off. Well, then the job goes. The job goes away. So it's all about like, okay, there's going to be something new that emerges, right? For my soul's evolution. It's to trust that. To not look at it as like a bad thing. That's the mind and judging. It's like, oh, I'm done that karmic experience, right? I'm on to the next lesson, and then the simulator creates something completely new for you, right? So, but staying connected and aligned with your vision or your mission or your soul purpose, and to trust that above all else. Don't get locked into I need the container, I need the container. New containers will form. So you can see them as these containers and structures as supportive vessels that help me manifest my dreams in the material world, right? So a balance of your material self and your spiritual self, not just spiritual, and I don't care about my material well-being, right? Who are you going to help? If you're a healer, teacher, life coach, if you're not embracing your material, you can't help anybody because there's no container, right? You need the container, and the container starts with your body and your health, and then around you, right? Your environment. So balance of these two. And that's a big one for spiritual people, is to embrace, because we've been so brainwashed and conditioned that the material world is evil and wrong, and but it's part of our experience. It's why we're here. So remember, you can't help anybody unless you embrace your material self and to trust yourself, So remain open-minded when you're in the gift. Embrace the uncertainty of the flow of life, even when something doesn't seem to be happening. This is such a big lesson for me, is patience, right? Because when you go inside, you can feel so much going on, right? That time and space has to catch up with it, the internal changes. So you embrace divine laws and qualities that lie beyond the physical, like grace and magic and miracles, right? And you have common sense, think outside of the box, and use playful, light language. And really, the power of words, I can't stress that enough. And we can be limited not only by our thinking, but what comes out of our mouth, right? I was listening to someone the other day. It's really, and she was having issues with her partner, standing up to her partner, setting boundaries. And she kept saying, it's really hard to set boundaries. It's really hard to speak honestly with him. It's really hard. And I said, you notice what you say? There's so much energy on that word hard. That's a limitation, right? So you're going to create that with your words, and then it gets entrenched, and then it's a belief system, and then that's all you see, right? This is hard. This is hard. And I was giving her some advice. It's like, it's easy to stand up to my partner. Like, start to speak like that. Like, really watch what's coming out of your mouth. Is that language limiting, or is it expansive, right? Is it expansive? So, like, looking at structures, like this structure, this job that I don't like, I don't enjoy, maybe that ego doesn't like it at all, right? I don't enjoy this because you're getting triggered left and right, your emotional body. Take it to, like, it's serving me, right? Go to the silver lining. This is serving me to grow and evolve, right? I'm growing, I'm accepting this experience, and I'm growing and evolving through it. And really, if you go back and reflect back in your life, like the most challenging situations that you've been in, challenging people that you've been with, you've learned the most, right? We grow and evolve through discomfort. That's the container. The discomfort is the container, but we transcend that.